You've probably seen all the opinions, but it is now time for the facts. Welcome to the Cool Clubs channel. This is one of the biggest launches of the year, Mark.
I definitely agree. Titleist only comes out every 2 years, and there's 4 different clubs, so and some utilities as well. So it's quite a big launch.
Yep. We are going to dive into the 4 brand new irons from Titleist and give you all the information that you need to know to understand which product is going to be right for you. This is a big one for us too. We've got brand new content for you. We have 3D scanned these golf clubs to give you information nobody else is going to release to you, at least to the public.
Right.
We have actually MOI tested these clubs, which we've never done with irons before.
Nope.
We've actually had the chance to be fit by Titleist, so we know what
We've both tried them.
Yep, we know what these clubs are doing in
Give you
real
the end
life.
of the one that exactly happened there.
We've tested these at 80 miles an hour. Chris has spent absolutely hours hitting golf balls, so we've
Almost a couple of weeks actually.
huge amount of data,
Yep.
which gives us just the most accurate data.
Yeah, and we tested all the last year's version too with the same swing, so
Yep.
we've got apples to apples comparison as well. So it's kind of cool.
And we're going to test it live at a different speed that we've never done before, so you're going to get to see that too. So here's the run of show for you. Let's jump in and test the clubs at 90 miles an hour. Let's talk really quickly, because we'll do a bigger video about the robot swing.
Well, we've done robot testing for years, and until we got this robot, we really couldn't actually simulate the exact same impact from LPGA players and tour players. So we got Michael Neff in here with gears, and we hooked up gears to this thing, and we actually got exactly the same shaft lean, same angle of attack, same amount of bend to really duplicate what a golfer does. This first swing, this is the first time we've done real full testing, and we did all this testing at 80 miles an hour, duplicating basically the average LPGA player.
Yep.
So yeah, robots do have some limitations, but this one has less.
Yeah. Oh, this is the latest, greatest tech in the industry. All right, well, let's kick into it. Let's see what these things do at 90 miles an hour. First up, we've got T100. Let's give it a hit.
Well, strike down the middle.
We set this up at 4 degrees down, 90 miles an hour, to try and make it somewhat like a PGA Pro. And we're going to look at some key metrics here. That's actually a cool view.
Yeah.
We want to know what the RPM is. So we got about 5,700 RPMs there. We carried it 178 yards, and it landed at 47 degrees. That's a really good stopping power.
Yeah, it really is actually. That's a pretty good number.
Peak height of 102 feet. So we're going to jump in now, step up to the next one in the line, and we'll talk about why these things, we're doing it in this order. T150. Let's do it.
Fire away. Right down the middle again. Perfect. Right down the middle.
We don't really want to see any bias with these ones, right? These
No.
are the tour player. These want to go straight. You want the player to control the direction.
Absolutely.
So we saw about 5,700 on the T100. Now we've got about 5,000. So there is that drop.
That's 1 degree difference in the loft.
The loft is stronger. We're going to jump into all the specifications so you really understand each iron. We're just looking at this 90 mile an hour swing first to compare apples to apples. Land angle, again, 46 degrees, so that 1 degree trades off a little descent angle.
Exactly.
But we're still well in the safe space to land
It would definitely be more than 45.
Yep. Next up, new naming convention.
Yep, they changed the 200 to the 250 now, so it lines up with the 350, obviously.
Yep.
And it kind of makes sense.
Right.
But other than that, it's definitely the same sort of club.
Yep. We're going to get into the nitty-gritty details. The 3D scan unveils some stuff that you might not see online, so hang in there for that. Let's hit it. Okay,
That makes sense. A little left, right?
A little draw. Yeah, don't mind that.
Tiny bit.
Now we hit the 4,000 mark for spin there.
Right, so that dropped a bit.
Drops a little bit, and the descent angle gets down a little bit.
What's it at now?
42. So we're still in the 40s, but we are getting towards, this is the
distance club.
The distance club.
Right.
Truly is, right? Last one on the list, T350, no naming change.
Right.
We have avoided all the marketing talk because we've assumed you've heard it, but we are going to link these robot data to the marketing and help you understand what that does for you. Hang in there. Drop in the comments if you like the videos that we're doing. Hang it in there and tell us all about this 3D scan data, the MOI data, and the 80 mile an hour test, because that's for all of you. Just keep commenting.
That's straight again. Little more draw.
Tiny bit.
Tiny bit.
Okay, similar spin to the T200, which is great.
Yeah, it really is.
Carry 200 yards with the 7-iron. We're not expecting many 90 mile an hour.
No, this is not a tour player club, unless it's a 3-iron or something.
But it's forgiving, and then 42 descent, so that's great. They kept this identical.
It really kept it up that high with that much more distance. That's pretty good.
Yep. That's the fun test. They're just so you get to see the robot in action, you get to see a real golf swing, and we get to see some data. So we saw there that basically the carry yardage went T100 through T350, 178, 188, 197, 200. So the 250 and 350 really blend nicely.
Yeah, absolutely.
And everything else kind of picks up distance.
Yeah, just one after another. It's pretty well spread out, actually.
Yeah. So now we're going to jump into some stuff that you're not going to find anywhere else online. And let's start with the 3D scan and MOI testing.
Okay, we looked at all the 3D scan stuff, and obviously they definitely get more forgiving as they go up. Yep. You can see that by the numbers, so it's consistently increasing as it goes.
And we're talking about MOI predominantly in that.
Right.
So the MOI is super forgiving through like T100, T150, T250, and almost the 150 seems like in these numbers it's a little more forgiving than 250. But Dr. Mace has kind of explained to us that those numbers being that close or within 100 doesn't actually mean that much.
Right.
But what does mean a lot is when you jump to that T350, we've seen a 400-point jump.
Yeah,
that's a big deal.
That's substantial, right?
Yeah. So that 350.
When you do hit it off the face, on the sides and all that stuff, it's definitely going to help a lot more.
And we talked with Titleist, and we're not going to jump into all of their marketing, but we're basically trying to validate their technology.
Right.
And with the robot data, which we're going to get to, and help you understand like what all this nice technical fluffy language really means for golfers, right?
Yep.
So let's look at top line thickness again. So we 3D scanned this model. Dr. Mace pulls it in, takes a bunch of measurements. This isn't what Titleist might tell everyone is their top line. This is
what we're trying to measure here is what
you
you actually see, right? So that's kind of, it's a little guesswork there on, where to actually draw that line, but we're trying to simulate as much as we can what it looks like when you put it down.
And I think the one to highlight here is the fact that the 150 and the 250 are within 0.01 of an inch of each other.
Yeah.
And that's almost like unseeable.
Right.
So when you're looking down at the T150 and you might be blending it with the T250, you can
You're
really
not going to notice a difference much from the top, yeah.
And we're talking about a 1.3 or 1.4 millimeter change in blade length.
Right.
Or at least what we've measured as blade length, which is the hosel kind of through to the end of the club.
Yep.
And again, only another half a millimeter or so down
when
from the 100.
When you set them down on the ground, you really don't see much difference in any of them, really. So you look down at the top line, and the 350 you can notice is actually quite a bit thicker, which you kind of want, right? I mean, it looks kind of scary if it's a real thin blade. So it kind of progresses all the way through pretty well, and the 350 kind of stands out as being the one that kind of looks different.
Yeah. You'll get into a retail environment, and you'll be able to stand them all next to each other and kind of understand this a little bit better. Offset's something that we talk about. Offset's scary for some people.
Yep.
Offset is like a stipulation for like great golfers. I don't want any, or I want little. This kind of shows that progressing. T100 starts with the lowest number. T350 is the highest number. It just basically means they're getting a bit more help to square the face in the 350.
Yeah, which is what you want. And I personally like progressive offset. I mean, I don't like a lot of offset in my short irons, and I don't like no offset in my long irons. It scares me.
Yeah.
So, I like a little bit of everything. So.
Yeah. Okay, now for the robot data, 80 mile an hour. Chris tested literally hundreds of golf shots. We're going to compare the 4 models against each other, so you can understand that. Then we're going to jump in and compare the 4 models against their prior generation, so 2 years ago, and show you the differences. Hopefully there are some. Before we get into that, I'm going to spiel off the technology to help understand where Titleist we're going, right?
Right.
Every model has split tungsten.
Yep.
So that's 2 lumps of tungsten.
Heel and toe. Helps with MOI, helps bring the CG down, launches higher, stops faster.
Everything has got a face technology. Even though this is a forged body, they basically are putting the back of the club on.
Right.
So even the 100 and 150, they've got tech low down in the face to make those thin shots, which a lot of golfers get, more consistent. Mm-hmm. That technology changes a little bit as you get towards the 250 and 350 because they're hollow body.
Yeah, I really like what they're doing here, right? So what they're doing is, the 100 and 150 and stuff, I mean, they're really trying to help you get the same distance no matter where you hit it, right?
Right.
And, I have 2 misses, right? I miss it on the toe, which we talk about a lot, and I also hit it thin.
Yep.
And what they're trying to do by making the bottom on the 150 and 250 a little hotter is to kind of get the same sort of distance out of those thin shots, which is fantastic.
Yep.
And what I really like is they're really looking at trying to even slow down the center, right? Which is great.
Yep.
So that, no matter where you hit in the face, it goes the same distance. Rather than what a lot of companies are doing, just trying to get as much distance as you can. Problem with that is you miss hit it and you're 20 yards shorter.
Okay.
So good job there.
And leading into our testing, so they basically have got this L face where they wrap the face around a bit, and then they've got this variable face thickness, and it's called different things in different models. But basically, it's in the T250, it's a V. In the T350, it's kind of a cross. Right. In the 150 and 100, it's like a pad down the bottom, and it's targeted at each golfer that's going to use that club. And we've changed our testing to kind of match this because we hit low toe and low heel and it was not doing anything.
Nothing good happens there anyway, and just not a good thing to test. So now we've actually testing now just center, 6.5 millimeters, 6.25 actually, and then 12.5. So basically a 1/4 inch down and 1/2 inch down.
And then we still did heel and toe, but we did center heel and toe.
Right.
So the last piece they've added is the groove technology, and
Right.
they've done a more aggressive groove that's going to help in the rough and wet conditions,
Yep.
which every golfer needs, right?
Yeah, I actually mentioned they're doing a test with toilet paper, wet in front of the ball. We're going to have to try that, by the way.
Yeah.
Especially with wedges.
Yeah. And it's all about control and consistency. So I love the direction from a marketing point of view.
Right.
They've gone away from it's all about distance. They're like, we need
Which is great.
consistency across the face. We need more spin, and let's see what happened. So, Mark, this is the center shot data for that test we just discussed, and it really just highlights the ball flight of each club. You want to walk us through what's going on?
Yeah, obviously the 100 is obviously the highest flying one. I mean, pretty similar to the 150 actually, in a lot of respects. It's 1 degree stronger loft. We didn't see any change in launch, so they've done a great job there. Only a couple yards of distance, which is also interesting, which makes them great to blend, even with the 1 degree. So they must have put more weight down the bottom. And then you get into obviously the 250. It goes a little bit lower, but the spin drops some. Obviously, that's stronger lofts again. And then obviously the 350 is even a little bit lower, but they actually maintained a pretty good landing angle. I mean, 44 degree landing at 80 miles an hour.
Yeah.
You know, at that kind of distance is pretty good.
Okay.
Yeah.
And this is the first time we've done this visual. Jump in the comments. Let us know what you think about the visual. Hopefully, it really explains ball flight. It shows the spin trade-off, the land angle trade-off, and I think this one really shows the blend of 100 and 150 and 250, sorry,
Yep.
It's going to take a while, 250 and 350. And then there's a little bit of work to do with how you adjust lofts between 150 and 250.
Yeah, that's a bit of a trick. Yeah.
Right. So there's something, that's why you need to get fit. You can't just kind of put one of them in the bag and one of them in the bag.
And the way they've done too, the 100 and the 150 too, by changing the loft only 1 degree. I mean, you also have a lot of options of weakening and strengthening those, whether you want to add bounce or take it away. So got a lot of options here.
Yeah, well, that's one point while we were talking about spin is the 100 got de-lofted 1 degree from its prior generation. And they did that, and quickest way to explain it is that allows LPGA players who are at the speed that we're discussing to de-loft it a little more and get that distance they need without trading off too much in spin.
And they don't mind, by the way, lower bounce.
Yep.
Because they're like 2 degrees down like I am.
Shallow.
So shallow. So it actually helps them.
And then it allows the PGA Tour player to back it up 1 degree, get it back to where it was last year, reduce offset, increase bounce, and still have a bunch of spin and stuff.
And again, the PGA Tour average on angle attacks is more like 4 or 5 degrees down. So that's why, right?
Yeah. Okay, now let's jump into the graphing. I know you've been waiting for this one. Let's jump into the 4 graphs that look at the existing models this year. So this graph in here just shows this year's model at the 80-mile-an-hour test, and it's nice to compare them to each other, right? But this really only tells a story about kind of blending the models because it shows what we just showed in that prior screen, but the grouping. What we do love here is the bunching of the groups, right?
Yeah, they're really tight. All of them, right? There's no like outliers, like low heel, crazy spots that really different distance. They're all kind of good, and we'll see that when we compare even to even, the last year's to the new one, that the overall circle got smaller all the way around. So they actually did what they were trying to do.
Yeah, and that's it. So this is the technology starting to come into play. Now you're understanding what it looks like across a family line. They've done an incredible job because we've seen this year, we've tested every iron that's come out.
Yep.
As you get towards those hollow bodies, we see a big jump between the center shots, sometimes within the center shot itself, a big spread, and then between the low shot, which is 1/2 inch down the face, we have this huge gap. And for the average golfer, they don't know where the ball's going to go. So this is like a first family that have kind of said, wow, we can get the middle shot and the top shot. This leads back to that L-face technology, the variable face thickness, the V face, the multi-zone face, all that tech basically means more consistent shots across the face.
Yeah, I love it because we get so many clubs come out now. They're all like us, make it longer than last year, and they get hotter and hotter. Problem is, miss it off center goes so much shorter. And irons, the end of the day is not the longest iron that works. It's the one with the tightest circle you can control. And I've always thought that. But it's difficult in a bay, right? You get somebody that hits it further, they want one that goes further. But the size of the circle and whether it's right for you is really, you can always go with another club. Driver, different deal, right? We want as much as possible.
Yeah.
But irons, we're really looking for consistency, and they've done that.
So let's see how consistent they've got from last year's prior gen model. So T100 first, Mark.
Yep. So, fairly similar, pretty much straight. You just see the circles tighter, front to back particularly, quite a bit.
So they picked up a few yards because they did de-loft it this year. So there's nothing there in tech that you're like, okay, this is just springing. It's 1 degree stronger. Yep. But they've made that total area about 13 yards smaller. Imagine that for a Tour Pro that's playing T100.
That's a pretty big difference, yeah.
It's wild, right? Now let's go T150, and you'll probably see some really good players playing T150.
Oh, absolutely.
Yep.
Very similar, tighter circle, obviously, quite a bit.
Look at those thin shots, where they are
great.
compared to the pack.
Yep.
And then we've got 22 yards in total area, tighter. So that golfer is seeing drastic improvement. And let's go to the 250, so the new naming convention, competing with the 200.
Yeah, it's just much tighter. It's just a shorter circle front to back by a fair amount.
Right,
which is huge.
That low center shot. Look at the drop off from the center on 2023.
Yeah,
that's
a big difference. I mean, you're talking 12 yards, or and the new ones, less than 10.
And they've tightened the circle from the 200 to 250, 40 yards.
Wow, that's a huge difference.
So this golfer is now going to see, I think, this is an opinion, so it's not really blocked the channel. A much better looking golf club this year.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Right, but they're going to get their back.
Especially the 200, because they got rid of the badge in the back and the kind of shiny looking thing. They all look very clean and
looks like a family.
Yeah, it does.
And now let's jump to the 350. One of our best selling clubs of all time.
It is actually. It's been our #1 selling club for probably 3 or 4 years now.
Yeah. And that's scary for us.
Yeah, exactly. You don't want to mess with that one.
This works, right? And what can you do? Well, look at that graph.
Yeah.
We've tightened the
way
area.
Better.
Almost half.
Yeah.
So they've like 90, 80 yard difference.
Huge difference.
It's just nuts. And that is a testament to this technology. People are kind of sick of this marketing spiel.
Right.
They're sick of golf clubs getting released all the time. We love the Titleist 2-year cycle. But what we love the most is like these engineers getting the respect they deserve because like they're spending hours on this. Chris is spending hours testing these things.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And they've actually done what they've said. We're getting more consistency. We're getting great land angles. Their whole marketing spiel this year is 3 Ds: distance control, dispersion control, and descent angle control.
And those are the important ones.
Right.
I mean, it shouldn't be about distance on irons. So I love that.
Great job, Titleist. We probably seem like fanboys for this, but we're not. Like we just love that they're doing the right thing for the golfer.
Right. So you got fitted. What did you end up with?
Okay, I did T100, and we talked about blending, and I'm a big fan of blending. When I fit people, I blend a lot. Like it's just not. But what T100 did this year, they've added this cut cavity to the 4-iron and the 3-iron. I'm not a 3-iron player. And that's the point where I could definitely jump, and I have in other sets gone to a hollow body like a T250 or even a 150 in this case. The cavity in the 100 and the 4-iron, that technology, it feels different, feel and sounds different.
Absolutely.
But it gave me a great peak height with my 4-iron and gave me all the stopping power I wanted. So I went top to tail T100.
Okay, well, I did the exact opposite.
What did you do?
Well, I mean, I played the 200s before, and I liked them a lot.
Yep.
A little tingy sounding on stuff, and this is way better. They sound fantastic. So I did do 200s again, 250s. But because I don't have a gap wedge, and a 43-degree pitching wedge is just too much for me. So I did a 100 in the pitching wedge, a 150 in the 9-iron, then 8.765 in the 250, and I actually got the UDI in the 4-iron.
Wow.
So I got a little bit of everything. Yeah. And to be honest, I've sold like 12 sets of these to really good customers. I know they're avid golfers, and just by talking to them about it. And pretty much every set has been changed. Now, granted, most of those guys all don't have the speed you do. They're more in my lane or even slower. So they're a lot more 300s and 200 series. But yeah, I think it's great to mix. I'm really excited about it. I think it's the first time I've seen a complete line of 4 clubs that are really designed to look in the bag like it's one set.
Yeah.
I would almost look like this is like a launch of one, hugely fittable iron, basically. Yeah. And like I said, most all the sets I've sold have been some kind of blend, whether it's long irons or back and forth. But I think you can do that with a set. You got to be a little careful with bounce and stuff, and who you're playing it with, and how much stronger or weaker. But there's not a huge difference in the distances in any one of them, so you can do it for sure.
Yeah, these videos are to help educate you and make you inspired to go out and check these products out. Come to us and get fit. Mark talks about you need an expert fitter. We've had this information for a while. Our fitters have been working with it. Mark's sold sets already because he knows exactly what's going on, and we've got this back of house information that nobody else really does other than Titleist themselves. This information trickles down to the worldwide golf retail locations. Our staff members there are better educated, better equipped to serve you when you come into the store and you ask, what club should I be trying? They're going to guide you through this process, backed up with our robot data, with our 3D scan data. Like, they really know what they're talking about. And this is a fitting story. Titleist have done an incredible job. Like, kudos to Titleist. I can't actually wait to get this in the fitting bay with more people and really see what these land angles and stopping powers do.
Yeah, the 350 is, like I said, been our #1 selling club for a while now, so I'm really excited about this one.
Yeah.
You know, they didn't really go after more distance; they got after more smaller circle, and that's huge.
Jump in the comments, tell us what you think. Are you going to upgrade? I mean, it seems obvious to us. We're gearheads. We're like, we love it. It makes a difference. But is that enough to convince you to A, even get fit, or B, jump in and just get a set that you know? Let us know what you think about the content. Do you like this 3D scan data? Hopefully that's pretty cool tech. We're going to keep pushing the boundaries. We're going to keep robot testing with the best robot in the industry. Like, subscribe, tell your friends. We'll see you next time.